there dangers to saturated fats? Should we avoid them? Do they cause heart attacks and cardiovascular disease? Like, what's going on?
Yeah, there's so much more to that than so, all right, first let's parse out the polymorphisms where some people seem to have blood lipids that respond negatively to the intake of saturated fats. Okay, so there are people that do have to, watch their saturated fat intake because when they eat a certain amount, you'll see their blood lipids just go, all over the place. So and that's not a huge percentage of people, but let's parse those people out. All right, everybody else. Context matters. And also, I hate that this is the part that annoys me as a trainer. So Peter Attia, great guy, brilliant, but you could tell he's never trained a single person in his entire life because he gets stuck on the minutia and misses the big picture. Oh, red meat. Okay, listen, nobody's dying because they're eating too much red meat. They're dying because they're eating heavily processed foods and nobody's exercising. And all we're doing is confusing the shit out of people. So now they're like, I'm not gonna eat that steak. I'm gonna eat this vegan burger patty instead, which is like 50 million ingredients, highly engineered, heavily processed or whatever. So aside from people whose blood lipids respond poorly to saturated fats, telling people red meat or this whole natural food is unhealthy is stupid. It's one of the most nutrient dense foods on the planet. Uh, the average person, if they do eat anything that's whole and natural, it's typically milk, meat, or eggs. And if we attack those foods, all people are going to do is take those out and replace them with more heavily processed foods. It's a stupid message. It's not helping anybody. So yeah, we can get into the debate, red meat versus whatever, but no, it's dumb. That's not. We're focusing on the wrong damn thing. And for most people, you know who gets caught up in that? People that know nothing about nutrition. So the average person, "Oh, I heard red meat's bad, so let me eat more of this, vegetable-based whatever, frankenfood." Or like the super crazy fitness fanatics. Uh, First of all, if you're that crazy fitness fanatic, stop worrying about red meat versus not because 'cause you're doing great. You're fine. And then those other people, okay, stop worrying about the red meat. Like, let's focus on the other things that I think are making the biggest, that are really the big offenders, like the fact that 80% of your diet is heavily processed, or the fact that you do 0 activity, that you're moving 3,000 steps a day. Like, let's look at the fact that you get barely any sunlight. Let's look at those things first, and let's go down that path, and then if you have one of those polymorphisms, then we'll look at that. But no, it's this people get caught up in this red meat, debate, like they'll talk about eggs or whatever, or dairy. Like nobody's getting sick and dying because of that. That's not what's happening. That's not the problem.
Raw dairy is something that has had a huge impact on my life. Raw milk, raw cheese, raw kefir. My gut health has gotten tremendously better, if nothing else. On top of that, like really not having any seasonal allergies anymore. Um, it's really is a superfood, and I've heard you mention it as well. I know though that you are pretty lactose intolerant. Are you able to tolerate raw dairy? No, you're not.
I can't have any dairy.
Okay.
And that's there's a decent segment of the population that can't have dairy. And you can break that up into 2 categories: lactose intolerant, and then there's just dairy intolerant. I'm dairy intolerant. So even if you take out the lactose, it's the dairy proteins that I seem to have an immune response to. But if you're not in those categories, okay, if you're the 70%, I think, or so of people generally, but it depends on where the people are from, whether it's greater, like if you're Northern European, you're probably fine. If you're Mediterranean, a higher percentage can't have dairy. If you're, Asian or whatever. But generally speaking, 70% of people probably perfectly fine with dairy. Full fat dairy is a superfood. I mean, it's super nutrient dense. It's the protein is super high quality. You're going to absorb a lot of the nutrients that you intake with them. It's very satisfying. It's an unprocessed food for the most part. People have been consuming this for thousands of years. And raw dairy from healthy cows is better because the enzymes that are naturally present in dairy, the natural bacteria that's in there, seem to be beneficial. And in some people, you'll see this often. They'll have pasteurized milk and they'll develop allergies and stuff like that. Then they'll go raw and they'll have no problems whatsoever.